started. So we were looking at ecology or ecosystem. So still we are going to continue where we ended. Now it is very, very important. In the last session, we looked at the terms which are used under ecology or ecosystem, like habitant. You need to know what habitant is. And what I said about habitant, I said habitant is the natural home for living organisms. The natural home for living organisms. It's more like the place where living organisms live. Okay? So that is one thing that you need to know here. Then apart from that one, we also talked of the niche, where I said niche is just a specific role that the living organism perform in an ecosystem. So we said the specific role. When you say specific role, we are talking about now the work now of each living organism in an ecosystem. The specific role of a living organism in an ecosystem. Or living organism in an ecosystem. Okay. For example, I said all the plants are producers. I said all the plants are what? Are producers. If you remember very well. Are producers. So this means to say that when I have algae is a plant. Okay, it's a plant which usually found in water. It is greenish actually it's not like the way the plants look like. It's jelly like, but it's green. So algae, this one is a producer, especially for those living organisms that live in water or aquatic life, I can say. Now when you talk of plants, here we can say the niche of these plants or the role of these plants is to act as producers. Then apart from that one, you can also have bacteria. So what is the role of bacteria or bacterium in an ecosystem? So they are going to act as decomposers. If you remember very well, that is what I said. They act as decomposers. We also have, let's say for example, if you talk of a human being, the human being is an omnivore. The human being eats on both plants and animals. So meaning to say, a human being can eat plants. He can also eat animals. So the role of now a human being in an ecosystem is to eat all those things. Okay, in order to control their accumulation. Okay, so apart from that one, also talked of the community, also talked of the species as well as population. So in an exam, they can ask you to say define the following terms: habitat and population. So when you talk of population, what is population? Of course, population refers to the total number of, or the community of same species in a certain area. So you're going to find that, for example, when they are counting the population of Zambia, they're just going to count the population of people. They're not going to include dogs, they're not going to include ducks, they're not going to include cats. They're just going to count people. That's all. So people, in this case, they are species. They are species. Species. This is IE, then species. So people are species, or are of the same species. Of the same species. So since people are of the same species, meaning to say, if we say we are 21 million in Zambia or 20 million in Zambia, meaning to say we are just counting people. That is what it means when you talk of population. So population is the community of the same species living in a certain area. Very simple. But when you talk of community refers to now the population of different species in a certain area. So you are going to find that when you talk of community, we have different things that live in our community. We have cats, we have dogs, we have other animals that live in our community. So when you talk of community, you are also including all those, including non-living organisms like ponds, water, you can say, the land, all those things are falling under our community, the group of population or different population in a certain area. That is what we call community. But when you talk of species, like this, species. So species refers to the group of same living organisms that are able to interbreed or to produce offspring. Those are called species. What it means here is this: when living organisms belong to the same species, meaning to say they look alike and they are able to interbreed or produce younger ones. What it means is this: if we have a human being should marry a human being, not a human being marrying a dog. That one doesn't make sense. So when you talk about species, we are looking at the same living organisms that are able to interbreed, or the living organisms that look alike and they are able to interbreed or produce the offspring. Those are called offspring. Let me say those are called species. So you can't say you have a dog and a human being and then you say these are same species. No, because they are different species. They are not able to interbreed. So that is one thing that you need to know on this part here. Of course, there are also other terms that you need to understand, like biotics. When you talk of biotics, these are living organisms. Okay, these are living organisms. For example of living organisms, we can talk of fish, we can talk of human being, and other things. Those are living organisms. Like trees, they are living organisms. But when you talk of abiotics means non-living organisms. So in an exam, if they say give 2 examples of abiotics, they are just asking you to give 2 examples of non-living organisms. So that is what you need to understand here. So examples of non-living organisms, you can talk of the sunlight. You can talk of water. Water is a non-living organism, although it supports living organisms. Then apart from water, we can talk of land. We can talk of stones. All those things, they are non-living organisms. But when it comes to living organisms, which are called biotics, we can talk of trees. They are living organisms. Human beings or animals, they are living organisms, in short. And to mention a few. So those are the terms that you need also to understand under ecosystem or ecology. Now let's just dive into this part here. So it is saying investigate key features of an ecosystem. So as you can see here, we are investigating the key feature of ecosystem. Ecosystem, you're looking at the interaction of living organisms. The way living organisms are able to interact to each other. Like the way we are able to interact with other human beings or other living organisms, or the way we interact to other human beings through talking and showing gestures, or through gestures and non-verbal communication. Those are the things that you need to understand also here under ecosystem. So we are talking about features now of an ecosystem. What are the features? Things that you are going to find in an ecosystem. An example of an ecosystem which I can give is an aquatic ecosystem. So aquatic ecosystem, it is an ecosystem now that focuses on living organisms that live in water. Okay, we also have land ecosystem. Okay, so you can just choose here whichever way you want to go with. Either you can go with the aquatic ecosystem or you go with the land ecosystem. Then you explain the features as well as the interaction. That's all. That's what you're supposed to answer here. So let me choose which one should I choose here? Okay, let me choose the land ecosystem, because under aquatic ecosystem is just very simple. You can give an example of a pond, the way the fish pond is. So in that fish pond, you give an example. which one is going to be the producer? Because a producer should be the feature of an ecosystem. An ecosystem without a producer doesn't exist, because how are the living organisms going to survive without a producer? So in this case, for a pond, you can talk of a producer to be algae. Okay, algae. Where now the fish are going to feed, the small fish or the large fish are going to feed on the algae. So once they get the energy from the algae, especially the small fish, then the big fish, they are going to eat the small fish. From there, maybe the big fish are going to be eaten by the crocodiles and other animals, to mention a few. Now let me focus on the land ecosystem. So under land ecosystem here, I'm going to focus much on the living organisms that live on land. So I'm going to start with the producer. Okay, so when explaining, you have to remember here you're writing an essay. So you need to say the following are the features of an ecosystem. So you can say the following. Okay, the following are features. Okay, the features of an ecosystem. The features of an ecosystem. An ecosystem. So for example, land ecosystem include, you start now mentioning, so you include producers. Okay, producers which are going to be what? So producers which are going to be what? So in this case here, I'm going to choose a plant which is going to be a producer. So let's say, for example, if I choose cabbage. Yeah, cabbage. If I choose cabbage to be the producer, what else is going to be now followed? So remember here, I've chosen land ecosystem as an example, or to be part of an ecosystem, because you can either talk of aquatic or you talk of land. So here we have the producer to be part or the feature of an ecosystem. Then we also have the primary consumer. So the primary consumer. So when you talk of primary consumer now here, we are talking about now the next level organism that is going to feed on the cabbage. So I can give an example of a rabbit. Okay, can give an example of a rabbit. And then apart from that one, we can also have the secondary consumer. Secondary consumer. So for the secondary consumer here, since the rabbit is eating the cabbage, what is going to eat the rabbit is the what? Let's say the lion. Okay, the lion. And then from there, of course, you can also have the tertiary consumer. You talk of a living organism which is going to eat the lion. But in this case here, it's okay if you end with the secondary consumer and then you say and the or we can say and tertiary consumer. It's okay. Tertiary consumer. So under tertiary consumer, here we are going to have the bacteria which is going to act as decomposer. So we have the bacteria which is acting as a decomposer, which is acting as a decomposer. So this is the way you're supposed to write it. These are the features of an ecosystem. Then at the end, you can give an example of a food chain. So when you talk of a food chain, you remember I said the food chain, you're talking about the linear interaction of living organisms, the way, in a straight line, the way living organisms interact in a linear way or in a straight line. So you can say, for example, of a food chain, you need to write now the same organisms that you, I'm going to use the same organisms, living organisms, which I've used in this paragraph. So I'm going to start with cabbage. So to show the direction, the way the energy flow is moving, I'm going to use the arrows to show that I'm starting with cabbage, followed by the rabbit, followed by the lion. Then when the lion dies, it is going to be decomposed by the bacteria or the bacterium. So we are going to have the bacteria here. So in this case, the bacteria is acting as a decomposer. So this is an example of a food chain, the linear interaction or the linear interaction series of living organisms. They are interacting here. And one thing that you can remember here is that here the energy which the cabbage is going to produce is going to be 100%, and it is going to be passed on to the rabbit, but only 10% is going to be utilized by the rabbit, and 90% is going to be lost in form of heat and other form of energy. So this is what is going to happen, but I'm not saying that you're supposed to include this one, no. I'm just explaining. So even on this part here, this one is going to receive 10% and 90% is going to be lost in form of heat and other form of energy. Even here, this one is going to receive 10%. So only 10% is going to be utilized in an ecosystem, and 90% is lost. So that is one thing that you need to know. So that is the way you're supposed to answer this one, as short as that, in a brief way. No need of overwriting. So for the next question, is asking us to explain the effect of agriculture on an ecosystem. So this one is just very simple. All you need to do here is that you need to gather the information. When you talk of agriculture, what does agriculture involve? Agriculture involves use of or cultivation, especially Chitemene system. So in this case, Chitemene system is going to fall under, let me say, Chitemene system. So Chitemene system is going to fall under deforestation. Okay, you know that one, deforestation. So now, what are going to be the effect of now those things, like Chitemene system or deforestation? Deforestation. What is going to be the effect? Apart from Chitemene, these are not the answers, but I'm gathering the answer, the things which are going to help us to answer the question, which is this one. Apart from that one, use of fertilizer. Use of fertilizers. Apart from use of fertilizers, we can talk of what else? Okay, bad farming practices, that is Chitemene system, deforestation, and also bad fishing methods. You heard of using like explosive in fishing to kill fish. Agriculture doesn't necessarily mean cultivation, but it also involves the layering of livestock. So you can also talk of what's this? Which term can I use? The process of keeping the livestock on a small piece of land, which is okay. Going to remember that one. Of course, that one is not even going to be our answer, but just going to help us to answer this question. So we are talking about now the effects. So what we are going to say, agriculture has main effect on land or an ecosystem. So agriculture, here you're not supposed to define what agriculture is. The examiner already know what agriculture is. So you just have to say agriculture has several effects on an ecosystem. Several effects on an ecosystem. On an ecosystem. These include, so these include, then you start mentioning now. These include, number one, it leads to soil erosion. It leads to soil erosion. Just do this. Soil erosion. Soil erosion. Then apart from soil erosion, what else? It also leads to climate change or climate change in terms of deforestation. When trees are being cut through the main system, you're going to find that there will be a climate change. Apart from climate change, so let's have an example. If this question is carrying 6 marks or 4 marks, so you need to include 6 points or 4 points according to the marks allocated to the same question. So apart from that one, we can also include is it game cropping? Yeah, that's game cropping, the one which I was saying, that keeping animals on the small piece of land, which is going to lead to desertification. So apart from that one, you can also say destruction of habitats. Destruction of habitat. So by now you know what I mean when I say habitat. Destruction of habitat. So what I mean is, through cultivation or agriculture, you're going to find that, let me talk of cultivation, like planting crops. It involves cultivation in the large piece of land in terms of the commercial farmers and subsistence farmers. So you're going to find that the land is going to be cleared, the trees are going to be cut. As a result, the habitat for animals are going to be destroyed. As a result, animals won't have the habitat where to live. Okay? So destruction of biodiversity or extinction. Can talk of extinction. So this is N. So extinction of living organisms. Okay? So agriculture can lead to the extinction of living organisms. Like some plants, let's say for example, if some plants are concentrated on a certain area, that's where they are only found, then we initiate to cultivate that land. So meaning we are going to cut down all the trees, and then if we cut down all the trees, meaning to say we are promoting the extinction of the certain plant which is in an endangered. So apart from that one, agriculture, the effect of agriculture is that it is going to lead to pollution. So for this one, it's just general. It can lead to air pollution, land pollution, and other types of pollution. So when you talk of air pollution, during the process of burning trees, like the main system, once the trees have been cut, trees are burnt, smoke is produced, and in the process, small living organisms can be dead due to it, like the earthworm. They can die. So lead to pollution. So this is just general as pollution. So you can talk of air and land. Okay. So apart from that one, let me just include the last one. And so you can also include what else? Loss of biodiversity. So loss of biodiversity. So when I say loss of biodiversity, I just mean loss of varieties of living organisms. Okay, during cultivation or layering of, especially you are going, this one focuses on mostly on trees. You clear the land so that you layer your animals, or you start cultivating. in that you're going to find that there will be loss in biodiversity, or loss of biodiversity. So I've explained what biodiversity is. Biodiversity refers to the variety of living organisms in an area. So how many points do we have here? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if it is 6 marks, they are going to give you 6 marks on this one. As simple as that. Okay, so if you want, you can say agriculture has several effects on an ecosystem in several ways. For example, of Chitemene system, deforestation, you talk of game cropping. These may lead to, then you start explaining now, soil erosion, climatic change, destruction of habitat, extinction of living organisms lead to pollution as well as loss of biodiversity. In that way, it is also okay. Now, if they ask you to explain now ways of now preventing all this, you can talk of afforestation, good farming methods. Apart from that one, use of by recycling items, by reducing, by also reusing the items. Okay. Then the third one is saying describe the effects of deforestation on soil stability and climate. So this one I've already explained. Deforestation, you just explain the effect of deforestation, and I think you can just include all these. They are part of these answers. Deforestation can lead to soil erosion, it can lead to loss of soil fertility. So we can also include this one as well. Loss of soil fertility. So here you need to clarify loss of fertility. How? Due to use of fertilizers. Due to use of fertilizer or chemical fertilizer, if you want. As simple as that. So all these answers are also part of this question. But in terms of climate, you're going to say it is going to lead to climatic change or fluctuation or reduce in rain pattern as such. Then the fourth one is saying describe the undesirable effect of pollution. So under undesirable effect of pollution, so you talk of the effect of pollution in terms of land pollution, water pollution, as well as noise pollution, the undesirable effect that they have. And I think this one is just self-explanatory. For example, in talk of water pollution, what will be the effect of water pollution? Water pollution will affect aquatic life or living organisms, in that living organisms are going to die that live in water due to pollution. As a result, they will lack oxygen. Even living organisms that live in water, they also use oxygen that is dissolved in water. So if there is water pollution in that, you're going to find that they are going to be contaminated. Apart from that one, if the fertilizers are washed into the lake or the river, aquatic life are going to be contaminated. Spewage of acids and chemicals in the lake or river contaminate also aquatic. As a result, you are going to find that there will be extinction or reduction in the number of aquatic life. And then the fifth one is saying, don't know if it's the fifth one, I think so. It is saying determine measures to prevent pollution. So when you talk of measures to prevent pollution, there are only 3 measures to prevent pollution. And these are, you can just say they are mostly used. They are the ones that are mostly used, which are the 3 R's or 3 R's. So for the 3 R's, we have reduce, So what I mean about reduce, you talk of reduce of pollution, reduce of use of chemical fertilizers, and rely on organic manures or manure. Then apart from that one, recycle. So when I talk of recycle, we are recycling the materials. Let's say, for example, the plastics, instead of decomposing or disposing the plastics, we can just take the plastics and then we recycle the same plastic and also reuse them, which brings us to the next one, which is reuse. So the 3 R's: reuse leads to recycle leads to reuse. We are using the same things. So these are the only 3 points that you need to include on this one. But how do you write? You can just say pollution can be prevented by using 3 R's, or you can say by using the following methods. That is, reduce. Then you explain a little bit. Don't just say reduce. So you are going to say reduce. That is reducing the use of chemical fertilizers in agriculture. Reduce poaching to conserve animals. Apart from reduce poaching, you can also say reduce use of bad fishing methods, like use of explosive in fishing. Then you go to recycling, including recycling the non-biodegradable things like the plastics. So plastic is a non-biodegradable. So when you talk of non-biodegradable, meaning to say it doesn't decompose. So things that doesn't decompose, they have to be recycled so that we continue using them. Because if we just dispose them, they're not going to be decomposed. As a result, they are going to pollute the land. So on this part here. Then reuse. So you're just going to say reuse now is going to be brought about recycling. When items are being recycled, they lead to the reuse to maintain the constant use of the items. So that is what you're supposed to include on that part. Then let's see the next questions. So for the next questions, it is also the same one. I think I just repeated on these ones. They're just the same ones. Like this one, explain how to reuse, reduce, and recycle materials, which were part of answers for that one. And then identify the importance of conserving plants and animals species. So why do we conserve plants and animals? To maintain biodiversity, balance of nature, promote tourism, as well as it's a source for medicine, as well as the raw materials. So all those things just have to include on this part here. And also raw materials for industrial use. Then determine measures to prevent pollution. I will explain this one here. Let me see if I have questions. Okay. So let's try to look at this one. Of course, this one is not part of section B. It's not part of section B, it's part of section A. So it is saying figure 5.1 shows the development of a zygote into a fetus. So we have cell B, which is dividing into two, forming the ball of cells, and later form a fetus. Okay. So what is happening here? Of course, fertilization has already taken place here to form this one. So we can say this is the zygote now. This is the zygote. And then the zygote is being splitted into two cells. So in terms of the type of division which is happening here, as you can see, these two cells, they are identical cells. So these are identical cells, as you can see here. Now, since they are identical cells and they are two, meaning to say the type of division which is taking place here is mitosis. when you talk of meiosis, occurs where a single cell is going to divide to form 4 daughter cells which are haploid, and they are different from each other and from the parent. So this is meiosis, 4 daughter cells which are different from the parent. So for mitosis, the cells are going to be identical to the parent and they are going to be diploid, not haploid. Then this is the ball of cell, which can be the blastocyte, or blastocyte, like that. Then here we have the foetus, or fetus, if you want. So the first question is saying, state whereabouts in the female reproductive system structure C would be formed. Wow. So where is structure C going to be formed? Remember, here we have 2 cells here. Okay. So the only part which is going to be implanted on the placenta here is this one here, which is the zygote. Once the zygote divides to form the blastocyst, and it continues to form the foetus like this. So this one can occur in the fallopian tube just after fertilization has taken place. So this one can occur in the oviduct. So if you don't want to say the oviduct, you can use fallopian tube. So this is A. So fallopian tube, or fallopian tubes. Then for question B, saying name the type of cell division occurring in figure 5.1. So by looking at this, you can say this is mitosis. It's not meiosis, it's mitosis, because we have 2 cells which are identical and diploid to each other. Okay, so for question C, saying describe what happens to structure D to enable it to continue to develop into a foetus. So what has happened here? So during the gestation period, there is the formation of the trilaminar disc from bilaminar disc, that is the hypoblast and epiblast, are changing into or forming the ectoderm and endoderm. So we're just going to say here what we have is the ball of cells. The ball of cells. So for the ball of cells to be changed into the foetus, these cells, like the embryocyte, the trophoblast, as well as the embryoblast. So these are the embryoblast that forms the embryo, the ones which are inside here, and this is the trophoblast. So for the foetus to be formed from the ball of cells, the bilaminar disc is going to change into trilaminar disc. So when I talk of trilaminar disc, that is the formation of 3 layers, that is the endoderm, the mesoderm, as well as the ectoderm. So from these germ layers, that is when our different organs are going to be developed. As you can see here, is a development of different organs: the eyes, the limbs, and the head. So for it to continue, the bilaminar disc, so you can say the bilaminar disc changes to trilaminar disc. So it changes to trilaminar disc. That is the 3 germ layers. The 3 germ layers. So these 3 germ layers, they are endoderm, we have the mesoderm, we also have the ectoderm. So So the way they are arranged, the endoderm is the inner layer, mesoderm is the mid layer, then we also have the ectoderm, which is an outer layer. So now different organs are depending on where they are being derived. They come from these germ layers. For example, in talk of ectoderm, it gives rise to central nervous system. Then the mesoderm, we talk of the muscles or the skeletal muscles. Then for question D, it is saying if the embryo's mother had blood group A and its father had blood group B, complete the grid box. Let me say complete the grid below to show how the embryo could have blood group O. So remember, for blood group O to exist, it has to be homozygous recessive. It has to be like this. So meaning to say, you just need to ask yourself, since this is blood group A, if we take blood group A as homozygous dominant and blood group B as homozygous dominant, we're not going to have a child who's blood group O, because where is O going to come from? So at least we need to have O from the mother. We need also to have O from the father, so that one O is going to come from the mother, another O is going to come from the father. Then they are going to make blood group O. So that is what you're supposed to do here. So the mother gamete, the mother blood group A. Then in terms of the gametes, what do we have? So the gametes, we have I to the power A. We also have I to the power O. This is blood group O, heterozygous dominant. Then for the father, that is blood group B, heterozygous dominant. So this one is going to be close with this one, and then we are going to have blood group AB. Then this one is going to be close with this one, and then we are going to have blood group B. So this one is going to be close with this one, we are going to have blood group A. And this one is going to be close with that, and then we are going to have blood group O. So this is what we are going to have. So of course this is the Punnett square in another form, but in an exam they are going to ask you to draw a genetic diagram. So you just have to do the need if. We start with the phenotype, genotype, splitting the gametes, random assortment, F1 genotype, F1 phenotype, you specify. So that is what you're supposed to do.